Welcome to My Hometown, the program that explores clubs, organizations, businesses, and issues across Nassau and Suffolk counties and sheds light on the different towns that are making a difference.
Hello and welcome to My Hometown. My name is Bill Horan. I'm here with my co-host, Nassau Community College student Zac Turkel. And today we're shining the spotlight on what it takes to work for a Volunteer Ambulance Corp.
We always hear about first responders, but for the next 30 minutes, let's remind our listeners that most of them on Long Island are just that, volunteers. They don't get paid to help us when we need them the most.
Joining us today is Mark Tomlin, Chairman of the Board of the Wantagh-Levittown Volunteer Ambulance Corp. Welcome to My Hometown and the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. Mark, thank you for being here today. Can you tell us, what does a Volunteer Ambulance Corps do? We know the ambulance, but what do the people like yourself do?
So Wantagh-Levittown Volunteer Ambulance Corps specifically is actually responsible for responding to 911 assignments within the districts of Levittown and Wantagh fire districts. We actually respond on a primary basis, which basically means that when you call 911, the first ambulance that is assigned to the assignment is actually a Wantagh-Levittown ambulance. Mm-hmm. So our actual job is to go to these assignments, treat the patient, and then take them to the hospital as best we can.
So what they'll do is when they call 911, they'll trace the call like they always do, and they'll find, like let's say the person, like you said, the 911 calls from Wantagh. They'll find the Wantagh, like the fire department. Are they in the fire department? Where would the ambulances be housed in? Like exactly what kind of a building? So
Wantagh-Levittown Volunteer Ambulance Corps is actually a separate agency from both Levittown Fire Department and Wantagh Fire Department. Mm-hmm. We have a response district within that footprint of Levittown's fire district and Wantagh's fire district. So what actually happens is when you call 911, it is actually tracked back to either your cell phone's GPS coordinates or to your phone number, and that phone number is traced back to an address that it originates from. Okay. And then from there, they look at the response matrix to see what ambulance is responsible for that area, and Wantagh-Levittown is the first ambulance that shows up within that response matrix.
What happens if there is, like, let's say, a fire scene and it's very deadly? How would the ambulances know to go with the fire trucks?
So Levittown Fire actually has their own ambulances that will respond to those emergencies separately from Wantagh-Levittown, but we are available for a mutual aid if need be.
Okay.
Now, Mark, one of the title that you have is Chairman of the Board. Now, we think of that as kind of an old man or woman who stands up in front of the board of
I think of a band that did give me just a little more time.
And you think of the band, yeah. But you do not appear that way. You're a young man, I think, around late 20s, you told us. We won't reveal your true age. But what does the Chairman of the Board do there?
The Chairman of the Board is actually responsible for the general overseeing and the direction of the department as a whole, whereas the Chief of Operation runs the department and basically makes sure that the ambulance gets out. My job is to direct the agency over the course of many years. So the day-to-day operations fall under the Chief of Operations, but when we're looking at bigger projects such as buying a new ambulance or potentially moving headquarters to another location, that's basically my area of expertise.
So we should treat you really well because you're the Chairman of the Board and you're a big shot. Right? That's it. Yeah, but say it. You can be a big shot. It's good to be a big shot.
Mark, I want to get to know you a little bit more. When did you join the Wantagh-Levittown Volunteer Ambulance Corps, and why did you want to join it?
So I actually joined in 2006. I actually did not submit an application. My sister did, who was a member of the department. She filled out an application for me, basically told me, you're going to go to this department and you're going to go do cadet training. And I was like, I don't want to do any of this. But after a couple of months of me not going, the probationary trainer, the cadet trainer, Mike Muccio, actually called me up and like, hey, if you don't show up, you're not going to have this chance again, so you might as well come down. And I was like, okay, so I'll give this a shot. I went on to one assignment with my sister actually in charge of the assignment itself because she's actually an EMT as well. Actually, she's a CC at this point.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wait, what's a CC?
Critical care provider.
He knows all this fancy language. That's why he's the chairman.
Right. They're in between a paramedic, which is my level of care currently, and an EMT, which is, the state refers to it as an emergency medical technician basic.
Gotcha.
All right.
Okay.
And your first ambulance call?
My first ambulance corps was for a seizure, and this was 13 years ago. So, and I remember this like it was yesterday because I think you always remember your first.
Right.
So it was for a seizure. It was for a female that had a seizure, had urinated herself, and it was in a group home in Levittown. We go to the assignment, we get there, everything is okay. There are police officers there because it's a 911 assignment, so the police are there to basically provide scene safety and to also work with us the best they can.
Right.
And while we were there, actually one of the people in this group home actually tried to get the officer's gun. And obviously it was holstered and it was secured, so there was no way that he could get it. But I was like, what? I had no idea this was something that could happen.
Right.
So from that point on, the adrenaline was going, and I enjoyed that situation so much that I wanted to do it again.
And did the person was the person okay?
Person was okay. Person was absolutely fine.
Good.
My sister actually didn't faze her at all what was going on around her. She treated her patient perfectly, and we moved her out into the ambulance, and the scene remained safe throughout the entire thing.
Great. So a happy ending to that.
Yes.
There's a real element of danger there, though. I mean, I was going to ask you that before, and I forgot. But unfortunately, the way the world works today, you can be doing good, and someone else decides that they're taking shooting practice.
And that's actually happened upstate a couple of times, where they called a fake 911 assignment in, and the first responders became the targets for them.
Now, for our audience, Mark, could you tell us, you used some terms in there. EMT means?
Emergency Medical Technician. It's a state certification level for a pre-hospital provider.
And that's kind of level 1. That's the beginning, the bottom of the pyramid.
Yes.
Now, where does the paramedic come in?
The paramedic is the pinnacle of the pre-hospital profession. That's the goal is for, hopefully, most people to transition to that level of care because they have the most capabilities in the back of an ambulance.
And you are a paramedic?
I am a paramedic, yes.
Clarify. Now, what would come if you were an EMT, then you went on to paramedic? What would be the next stage, so to speak?
So there is no real next stage within New York State. There is a level of care outside of New York State called critical care paramedic, and that's basically an add-on for interfacility transfers between hospitals.
I feel like I'm talking to a college professor, although you come across as a very young person and youthful looking. You know so much about this, and you seem to have it really down as if you would be giving me a test tomorrow. So I better be. He's the chairman of the board. I better behave myself.
That's right. You better, Bill. I should myself, too.
There we go.
And looking back into the history of the Wantagh-Levittown Volunteer Ambulance Corps, it didn't always have access to the 911 system. How did the Wantagh-Levittown Volunteer Ambulance Corps get access?
So we actually, in 1984, I believe it was, April 1984, we entered into the 911 system when we were looking for a dispatcher. Mm-hmm. And the deal that we made with the county was that if they provide us a dispatcher, then we would enter into the 911 system and be primary for the fire districts of Wantagh and Levittown.
Alrighty, well, you are listening to My Hometown on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. My name is Zac Turkel, along with Bill Horan, and today we're talking to Mark Tomlin, chairman of the board, I love that, of Wantagh-Levittown Volunteer Ambulance Corps. I just always think of the band, chairman of the board.
Oh, you're just into that band stuff. I think of an important person, and I'm sitting
close to it. That's true, too, you know.
Now, Mark, what's the current state in Nassau County of emergency medical system and doing what you do?
So the current state is, so New York State still oversees how an ambulance responds to any assignment within Nassau County, within the state itself. And then there's a subset of that from Regional Emergency and Medical Service Council that basically says this is the advanced life support care that you can provide within our boundary. And so we have sets of protocols that we use in the back of the ambulance for instance, if a patient is having chest pain, then we have a set protocol from start to finish on what we're supposed to do for that patient. And also the transport destination that we're supposed to bring them to, because not every hospital has every capability. So only certain hospitals within Nassau County are actually capable of receiving a heart attack patient so that they can be intervened on correctly and immediately.
So this is really a lot more. I think a lot of us think, somebody just volunteers to ride in the ambulance. They'll put us in, take us out, wheel us into the emergency room or something and say goodbye to us. You people really know what you're doing. You know a lot about medicine. You have to.
Yes. Because
you're doing an important job. If you're taking us in, you want to know what hospital to take us to, it may look like one thing. It could be something else. We may not if we call and say the person's having a stroke, it could be a heart attack, it might be something else.
Yes.
You have to identify it properly and perhaps give some treatment on the way.
Yes.
To use time most efficiently.
And sometimes not give a treatment as well.
Okay, yes.
There are
point.
certain times where you're having chest pain where I don't actually want to give the nitroglycerin because that would actually make your condition worse. So there are a few times where you have to use clinical judgment in the back of the ambulance to treat your patient, but also sometimes to not treat your patient.
If I need emergency services, can I go to Wantagh and request you? Like I call 911 and say,
Just
I
call
want
911.
Mark. Can you send the chairman of the board? Can you send Mark? Can I ask for that?
Sure.
All right.
Give it a shot.
I get it, but I can ask.
All right. I was looking at the website, and it says there were these things on there, and they look like Chinese to me. But it's these things called SEMSCO, SEMAC, REMSCO, and REMAC. What are they, and what is your role in them?
Okay, so you're talking about CMAC and SEMSCO. And
okay.
CMAC and SEMSCO are the state bodies that say what you can and cannot do in the back of the ambulance on a very broad level. And then REMAC and REMSCO are the regional bodies that say what you can do in the back of an ambulance within this region. So they're usually, REMAC and REMSCOs are usually county-based. There's been a lot of consolidation upstate when multiple counties would shut down their REMSCOs and be combined into one based on state budget from the governor's office. But in Nassau County, there's a Nassau County REMSCO and there's a Suffolk County REMSCO, and New York City has their own REMSCO as well. And they're specifically for the provision of advanced life support care in the back of the ambulance. That is your critical care provider and your paramedic on what they can and cannot do in the back of an ambulance.
Like what exactly? Horsing around? Like what exactly?
So they actually provide the treatment modalities for the patient. So that is the chest pain patient, that is the diabetic patient, that is someone who stubbed their toe maybe.
Oh, okay.
Now, it's interesting. You thought of that as kind of a Chinese menu, and I'm looking at it, and I see that as a shopping center developer. Another project by REMSCO, another project by SEMSCO, whatever it is. But it's good they have these organizations. Obviously, there has to be some major organization overseeing this, that you do the right things, and also keep up with.
Right, there has to be protocols with everything.
Now, Mark, how about the pay between emergency medical systems and paramedics? Are these people paid? How are they compensated?
I would say that the paramedic level of care is actually not compensated well enough for the level of training that we receive, especially with the amount of experience required to actually do this properly, and also the amount of burden that is placed on the back of the provider in the back of the ambulance. I mean, the clinical decisions that we make are life and death, and we are not paid like a provider that is making these decisions, particularly when it's compared to the people inside of the hospitals, such as nurses, doctors, etc.
And that really is true, because you're the first one's going to see us. You're going to come to our house or find us in a ball field or wherever and make some decision. And we better hope that you pass that test, or know a broken arm from a broken leg, or earache from a headache. Because if you put us on the wrong path, it's like going in the wrong direction. We want to go to Florida and we're on our way to Maine. So somebody has to undo it. No, I mean, it is very serious. So I hope you're compensated properly and we take good care of you. Because obviously you're very knowledgeable.
Many of the emergency medical technicians that I know of and paramedics that I know of actually have multiple jobs to be able to sustain their life.
Oh, okay.
We're at this point in the show where we want to find out more about what Mark's talking about, but we're going to take a brief break. My name is Bill Horan. I'm here with Zac Turkel, and today we're talking to Mark Tomlin, the chairman of the board of Wantagh-Levittown Volunteer Ambulance Corp. You're listening to WHPC on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. We'll be right back.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting. A teenager. Learning the lingo.
Today I'm going to help parents translate teen slang. Now, when a teen says something is on fleek, it's exactly like saying, that's rad. It simply means that something is awesome or cool. Another one is totes. It's exactly like saying, totally, just shorter. As in, I totes love going to the mall with Becca. Another word you might hear is jelly. Jelly is a shorter, better way to say jealous. As in, Chloe, I am like so jelly of your unicorn phone case.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will think you're, rad, just the same. To learn more, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
And now we return to My Hometown.
Thanks for being with us here today on the Voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. I'm Bill Horan. I'm here with Zac Turkel, and today we're talking to Mark Tomlin, the chairman of the board of Wantagh-Levittown Volunteer Ambulance Corp.
Mark, there are different kinds of training that go into this. Can you tell us about some of the protocol that you have to go through, and then you have to become a volunteer? How does that all work?
So the easiest way into becoming an EMT or a paramedic is actually to join a local fire department or ambulance corps. Every department is looking for volunteers, and Wantagh-Levittown is no different. So when you join an agency, you have the capability of going through probationary training, and that will basically teach you the requirements for being a provider in the back of our ambulances. And then we can also send you to EMT school, and that is actually reimbursed back to the department, so the department effectively signs off on you going, and you don't actually have to pay to go to EMT school. EMT school itself is about 3 to 6 months long, depending if you take the summer accelerated program or if you take a regular program. From there, you can go to AEMT school, which is about another 6 months, and that makes you an advanced life support provider. And we also provide a paramedic level of care where you pay the money up front, and then we will reimburse you over 3 years, whatever the cost for that program was.
Wow. Very interesting. Now,
it is.
Zac, we have a little surprise now. We have Stephanie Lombardo, who is a member of the WHPC staff.
Right.
And she did something called a ride-along. Is that correct, Stephanie?
Yes.
And you're going to tell us what it was like riding along. Was it Mark that you were with?
I was, yes.
Okay, so do you want him in the room when you're talking about him? Is that okay? Are you safe?
Absolutely. And, I could be here for hours talking about the experience because it was so amazing.
We're learning a lot, too, so we would like to hear it from you because you were actually in the ambulance with Mark and get your impressions.
Sure. So far, I've only been an observer once, and like I said, it was really an incredible experience. First of all, there's a flood of different emotions that you go through. First of all, when you get the call, there's a rush of adrenaline that you get. And then when you go onto the ambulance and you're on your way to the call, you're kind of thinking about what you can expect when you get there. There's a little bit of anxiousness and also, the unknown. Although you get a call on the radio explaining kind of a summary of what you're going to walk into, you can't really know for sure. And then once you arrive on the scene, everybody comes together, all the volunteers throughout their experience and their medical knowledge. And again, I'm highlighting that this is volunteer work that Wantagh-Levittown does. But the passion shines through so much. And their medical knowledge and their experiences are all focused on getting the job done. And it's really wonderful.
Now, from watching TV comedies, we have to know, as you were going, did you say, can I drive the ambulance? Can I drive the ambulance? And did they let you play with the siren? Could you turn the siren on as you went down the street?
Next time I have to do that.
You didn't ask for that?
I know, I should have. I was just more, and anybody out there who is squeamish like me, it was really when you're in it and you're on a call, you don't think about that, at least from my perspective. But next time I would like to play with the flashy.
So remember that for next time. She gets to turn the siren on, do the lights and everything. But now, when you came back, were you exhausted because of what you saw, or were you shocked?
No, not at all. I mean, luckily the calls that I was on were fairly mild compared to what I'm sure Mark has experienced through his career and what so many other paramedics experience. But I was so energized by the end of it. So it was really an eye-opening experience, and there's so much to know. So someone like me who's not in the medical field at all, learning more about it is completely eye-opening. It really is.
No, I see that, and we're learning so much today, just what goes on, because I had no idea of the training. Of course, it makes sense, but I personally had no idea of the training that went on, that you had to go through, that they had a chairman of the board there taking care of it, and someone so knowledgeable as yourself, and just the rankings and where things fell into place. So this has been definitely an eye-opener for all of us.
Yes, Stephanie, we can't thank you enough for doing that.
Sure.
It's probably hard for someone who may not have, a thick skin, like someone who could actually go and be on a ride-along. So So we do thank you for seeing something like that, and I'm sure I'm thankful that you didn't see anything too traumatizing.
Right.
I'm kind of glad about that, but
Me too.
A lot of people probably have in the past, and that's my next question.
Zach, I'm just thinking in the future, that would be great for you as a student here at Nassau. We'll send you out each week on a project. You can ride with the police chief. You can play with the Long Island Nets. You can be with the doctor we had on last week at an operation. This could be a whole new, aspect
I mean,
of
it
the
could
show.
be, but I think I would get fired if I ever be a part of that.
That too. Yeah,
I don't
that's
know
true.
what's going to happen.
True.
So, Mark, what's one call that you've had that you'll never forget? Maybe if you didn't show up at exactly the moment you did, the patient might not have made it. What was one call that you never forget?
That's a really hard question. There are a bunch of things that I could tell you right now that are not appropriate for the air.
That's the ones we want.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, those are the things that sprung to my mind immediately.
Yeah.
But I'll go with one that is a lot more mundane, but also very interesting, I hope. So I was actually in my department hanging out with the chief of operations because we're all good friends there. We were going over some things in the office, and we hear a loud bang outside of our department. And we were both like, was that an accident? I don't know. And we check outside, and we see 3 cars in 3 different directions. One of them was turned over, started to smoke a bit. We're like, oh, yeah, that was definitely an accident. Call 911 ourselves, call our dispatcher ourselves, saying there's an accident at this intersection. We're going to go to that. When we get there, the vehicle is on fire. There are one person who was removed by the people of Stop and Shop, actually, and another person that was still basically in the vehicle that we had to pull away from the vehicle because it was actually on fire and almost fully engulfed at that point. So those 2 patients were the ones that we immediately saw, and there were another 2 patients in another vehicle, and the third vehicle that had actually caused the accident had actually sped off. So they left the scene completely. So immediately we had 2 ambulances on scene, and we had 4 patients. So we did our best to treat the first 2 patients that we saw and get additional resources to the other 2 patients that we had. But it was an interesting experience only because the car was completely engulfed and you felt the heat from the fire of the vehicle.
Wow.
You just felt it immediately, and as it engulfed more and more, you just felt that heat even further and further away that you went. It was one of the most fun assignments that I've had in a long time.
So I guess that follows in my follow-up. What is the craziest calls you responded to? Is it that, or was there something even more crazier?
There's a bunch of sad assignments that I've gone to, but that was that definitely wasn't the craziest.
Oh, okay. Well, I just want to let our listeners know that you were listening to My Hometown on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. My name is Zac Turkel, along with Bill Horan, and today we're talking to Mark Tomlin, chairman of the board of Wantagh-Levittown Volunteer Ambulance Corp.
Mark, just when you expressed that incident, a lot of thoughts came to me, and I wonder how, obviously, you're the chairman, you know what you're doing, how you would handle them. You go out and you're to take care of people.
Yes.
Do you have to pull them from a burning car? I mean, and I don't mean this that you wouldn't or not caring for them, but just like they tell you to put the mask on the children first in the planes, you've got to take care of yourself, because if something happened to the medical people, the other people can't be saved. So is that part of your duties? I mean, because that's danger of a different type.
There's in the state protocols, it's body substance isolation. That's where your gloves, mask, whatever you need, and scene safety. Is the scene safe? That is the first 2 things that we think about when we get onto the assignment. But in that moment, we decided that it was safe enough to go to that vehicle because it wasn't completely involved at that point, that we could pull him away from the vehicle even further than he already was.
That was now. The next thing I'm thinking, and again, it's like you're a little bit of everything: a detective, a policeman, a fireman, a medical person. And too bad you didn't have Stephanie. You could make her do some of the things that time. Like, you take care of this, I'll pull this one out, you pull that one out. But you see somebody taking off from a scene.
Yeah.
Right.
Do they tell you? Do you have duties, like even just today, to take a cell phone picture, or to get the license plate number, or tell the police follow the red car?
If we can, that's great. But our primary goal is to treat the patient in front of us.
Because that I didn't even think of these things. So you just mentioned this is just one incident right outside your office, right?
Yep.
And that you have to weigh. Do you jump into the burning car or facility, wherever it is, to get the person out? Then if there are still some flames on them,
It's not a typical example, but it does happen occasionally.
But I mean, but you got to be ready. Your world isn't typical.
Right.
And anything can happen. And I'm just wondering, also, after 9/11, did training change, or were there new things that came in to prepare people?
So there are a bunch of things that New York State did to basically provide for the provider in the back of the ambulance. They started to add like level A suits and body substance isolation throughout our entire body. We call them Tyvek suits.
Is that when we see those people where there's germs all around, they put on, looking like spacemen? Okay.
Yeah, we've actually had to use those at Wantagh-Levittown at one point. We had a patient that was a biohazard, basically, to themselves and anyone around them. So one of our members, Mike Muccio, again, actually donned a Tyvek suit from head to toe and had to go into that scene.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I had no idea this is the world of the EMT and the paramedics. You think you kind of do like junior doctor, if you want to think of it, what you're doing. But really, you're part policeman, part detective, you're a little bit of every one of the government agencies that we support, and we're glad that they're out there. So thank you on behalf of everybody else.
Really appreciate it. And I think people take them for granted, but, we can never, thank you for that, Mark.
We do what we can to help.
Yeah. Zach, before you ask a question, I'm sorry to jump in, but I think this is important. How can the community, if someone's listening to this, and like now we go up to a soldier and say thank you for your service, how can we either support our EMTs, or, is it just a thank you that you're looking for, or do you have like a golf outing every year no, I'm serious, that funds what you do, because you're saving lives. I mean, this is very important stuff. It might be a little baby, it might be a kid at a softball, baseball, football game. Is there a way we can support the organization in our town?
So we actually do have a fund drive.
Okay.
We have that on an ongoing basis. If you would like to provide a donation, that would be phenomenal. You can go to Wantagh-Levittown's website, WLVAC.com, and there's a donation link on the homepage itself that you can go to.
And can people do that for their own hometown? I mean, if they're in Westbury or Mineola
absolutely.
Or Riverhead?
All of the agencies, any of the departments that you're in, they would love the help that they can get. And if you can, donate your time. Donate your time by coming down and, hopefully riding an ambulance shift or...
now, how could someone, afraid of blood, like Stephanie,
right.
She was wonderful to do that. How could someone, and admittedly, I'm scared of that. I'm afraid of that man's bleeding. Could I be of any use if someone like that?
Absolutely. So Wantagh-Levittown specifically has not only riding members that are considered Class 1 members, but we also have Class 2 members that are non-riding members that help out the department in other ways. And that is doing committee work, where it be at fund drive or public relations, and every little that we can get really helps, because there's a lot of work to do.
Wow, I'm glad you said that, because again, I'm not that blood type person. Maybe Stephanie is level 1, maybe super A1, A+1. But no, but like you said, someone's got to do the paperwork, someone's got to do the fundraising, be in the office when the call comes. That we could do. We could free you guys up to do the other, and senior people who are available, college people who are off in the summers. I'm sure it's a great experience to be doing this. You're serving the community. You're doing a lot of good, and very interesting what you've told us today. So thank you very much. Yeah. We want to thank you, Mark Tomlin, the chairman of the board of the Wantagh-Levittown Volunteer Ambulance Corps. Thanks so much for being with us today, and your number one ride-along, Stephanie Lombardo,
thank you,
a member of the staff here, and thank you for Stephanie for contributing and telling us the story. Thanks for being with us, and to our audience, thanks for listening to My Hometown on 90.3 WHPC, the voice of Nassau Community College.
We like to get your feedback on My Hometown. Send your comments to WHPC at ncc.edu. Nassau Community College, where success starts and continues. Till next time, this is Bill St. James. And remember, there's no town like your hometown.